Well, of course, the importance of voting is being involved in day-to-day workings in your community, and of course, federal elections as well.
Thompson's months of suffrage is part of a greater program that's happening in the state of Connecticut. In August of 2019, the then First Selectman Ken Bosley, myself, and Tara Penn, our planner, went to Hartford for the kickoff of the statewide event. And I was very excited to bring it back to Thompson and thought of a bunch of women who would be very interested in participating. And we formed a committee, and we've got 6 months of activities planned from May to September. Actually, sorry, it'll be October. We're going to wrap it up at Community Day on October 3rd. Just to name a few of the things that we're doing, we're going to be making sashes, the Votes for Women sashes, on May 14th. We're going to march in the Memorial Day Parade with those sashes and our outfits from the period. We have a performance from Susan B. Anthony. We're going to hear from Don Williams about Prudence Crandall. Tara Penn and the Snakes of Amazonia will be playing in Riverside Park as part of the concert series. There'll be a high tea at Roseland Cottage in August. We have a performance by the Proper Ladies in September. And as I mentioned, we're going to wrap it all up on Community Day, and the Thompson Memorial Modern Ensemble Band will be doing a show for us. So very exciting stuff. We hope you can catch some of it.
We started doing the research to make sure that the people here in the town of Thompson knew that they had a connection to the women's suffrage movement here in Connecticut. Now, I want you all to know that in Connecticut, the women's suffrage movement started long before the 19th Amendment. It actually started in 1864, which is over 50 years before that signing in 1920. Furthermore, in Connecticut, and I have to look at my notes, in 1893, there was actually a law passed here in Connecticut that gave women the right to vote, are you ready? For school officers. Okay? And we'll get some giggles on that one. But at least we were one of the forerunners. And as I said, we were trying to bring what we know about the women's suffrage movement overall back to the town of Thompson. And in order to do that, we went into some of the records at the state library, looked at them, and by the way, it's not just me, it's a whole bunch of ladies working together to make this work. And we found two documents that were really helpful. One was the 1884 Connecticut Women's Suffrage Association membership book. The other was a 1919-1920 same Connecticut Women's Suffrage Association registration book. I took those, went through those, we highlighted the names of men and women from Thompson, North Grosvenor, and R.D. 4 Putnam, who were really Thompson residents. Now you can ask, how do I know that? I know that because I read every page of the 1920 census for the town of Thompson to identify men and women who were on those other lists. We came up with quite a number, mostly women, of course. I want to point out a couple of interesting things about it. Most of these women are, in fact, what we would call housewives. I think the highlight of my research was finding that one of our women, Sarah Munyon, actually was the librarian here in Thompson at the public library. So they're doing some more research, and I think that's really quite fascinating. I've also worked with the names of these people to try to bring them closer to home. Some of the names people in town will already recognize. There's Rhodes, there's Cunningham, there's Turtelot, there's Elliott. Those are the ones. I'm a new kid here in town, so those are the names that I recognize, right? A Porter, I guess. The other thing that I did when I was looking at these people was to try to see what else I could find. They're housewives, so it's kind of hard to find very much on them. I will point out that I thought this was interesting. I go back to my Jenny Robinson. In 1920, she's age 76, okay? She was very active in 1884. She's on that list. She lives next door to a Mrs. John Sandstrom, whose birth name is Bida, B-I-D-A, and Bida is a recent immigrant. She has just come into the country in 1901. So we're now talking 1920, so she's fairly new to the area, and there's at least one other suffragette from that period of time on the 1920, who's also an immigrant.
I'm excited to be part of Suffrage 100 Committee. I am a member of the Thompson Historical Society, and our main goals are to preserve the history of our town and to educate. We do the education in various ways. We have a museum, the Ellen Larned Museum. We have the Old Town Hall. They both belong to the Historical Society. We also chair with the Alumni Association the care of the memorial room in the high school. Also in the high school, we have two other museum-type rooms. One is the Alice Ramsdell Museum, a railroad museum. It has thousands of documents, and it has been all cataloged by Tom Chase, who was worked at the Smithsonian. We also now have what's called the Kenny Room, which is the old post office and general store from Mechanicsville, that we will use as a class for elementary school students. And I think that the suffrage program that we're putting on, it does both preserve history. We can find the women who were involved in it, and it will be able to teach children as well as adults what was going on 100 years ago.
And registering to vote is really quite simple. If you have a computer, you can be doing it online, or come into the registrar's office or town clerk's office and register right there with a registration card, or you can do it at the motor vehicle. It's a very simple thing. All we need is an ID from you, a driver's license, or a piece of mail that shows your actual address. Other than that, every time you register for your license for your car, they will give you a registration card so that if you need it, you will be able to register.